beyond recovery. Live your best life, free from addiction. Join alcohol-free host Matt Gardner and his weekly guests to talk about their hero's journey from the darkness of addiction into the light of recovery. Living beyond recovery is to rediscover who you truly are. Let's start the show. Start the show indeed. My guest today is Rich Hill, owner of RK Athletics. He's been in the personal training business for 11 plus years and also happens to be a professional wrestler on the side, which we'll definitely get into. I'm a big pro wrestling fan as well. So we'll get into that. But before we do, Rich, thanks for coming on the show. How are you today, my friend?
I'm doing awesome, Matt. Thank you. It's a nice snowy day here in Edmonton. One of the first of many, I think, we'll have this winter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Time of recording, we're like, I think the first week in November 7th. And I don't know, it's I grew up in Prince George and very similar winters to Edmonton. It was like, there's like a flip of the switch right after Halloween. It's like, boom, okay, winter's here now. And it was very much the case this time. Yeah. Minus 17 Celsius, which is about 1 degree Fahrenheit for the American listeners. And yeah, lots of snow. You're right. You're right about that. So yeah, but here we go. And that's a great segue. I want to get into, we're entering the holiday season here. I wanted to bring you on the show and really talk about, I think for a lot of people, there's some guilt and some shame around, people getting hard on themselves for their eating and drinking habits. And here you are, personal trainer, you can really help them, navigate those types of situations with the minimal, damage, both mentally, physically to themselves, as far as getting hard on themselves and such, and then bouncing back and getting some goal setting for January. So we're definitely going to be working on that today. But before we do, just to get people like familiar with who you are as a person, dude, I really want to get into like your origin story, 11 plus years, personal trainer. Even before that though, what was it like for you growing up? Where are you from? Just the whole Cole's notes of what Rich is all about.
For sure. So talking about snow, it's all going to come back to snow today. But I was born and raised in Whitehorse, Yukon. So I'm very familiar with the snow. I'm very familiar with the cold. But I was born and raised up there. Throughout basically my entire childhood, I was very physically active. So I learned to like physical activity from a very young age. It's basically been a huge part of my life for as long as I can possibly remember. I was always playing like baseball or soccer or hockey, or later in my life basketball, and then branching off into trying volleyball, trying badminton, doing some wrestling, and eventually into professional wrestling. So the avenue to personal training was almost a bit of a no-brainer, but it took me a little bit longer to realize that when I went into my post-secondary education. So I think it was grade 12 when I was coaching basketball is when I really got the first inkling of what it was like to be a coach. And I really, really enjoyed that experience. And I really point to that experience as kind of the start of going into the personal training side of things.
Yeah, that makes sense. What do you what really spoke to you about that? Was it just the seeing people develop under advice you're giving them, collaboration with others? Like what really drew it, what I guess what was the reason that was such a pivotal moment for you? What did you like about it, the coaching the basketball in grade 12?
Yeah, a lot of it came down to the relationships I developed. Again, when I was in grade 12, I was coaching grade 8s. In Whitehorse, there's not middle school. It's basically you got elementary school from K to 7 to high school, which is 8 to 12. So these were kids that I would see every day. These are kids that I would play basketball with during like lunch breaks or afternoon breaks, whatever it might be. But it was a lot of the relationships you develop and seeing people grow before your eyes. Like a lot of the kids would come in, they kind of have a crap attitude to start with, or they think they know everything. And then you see them progress over the season and see them become a team. I like to use this as a big pat of myself on the back kind of situation. But the kids never lost a game I actually coached them for. The only game that they lost was one that I couldn't make it there for. I think I was too busy partying or something. It wasn't anything extenuating. But, like coaching those kids was a great experience. Not only that, but I love the sport of basketball. It was based my entire life throughout high school. I stopped growing at 5'7", so that really put a damper on my career. But if I could pay that back and be able to help these kids at least have a taste of kind of the success that they could possibly have, I was all for that. And so I really fell in love with the coaching process, I think.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah, coaching process. It's definitely like that. I've also heard of it referred to as like the art of coaching, which I love. It's like both
Yeah.
sides, right? There's like the analytical and there's the more creative minded. It's like a whole brain, activity essentially, right? So yeah, super cool, man. I did not know. And then the other time that we've known each other a couple months now, anyways,
Yeah.
that you were from Whitehorse. That's very, very cool. So yeah, this is like a walk in the park. These Edmonton winters are probably, this is nothing, right? One of those fisherman stories, right? Yeah, back in my day at Whitehorse. Yeah, crazy, crazy. So yeah, that's cool. Like we got some origins of the coaching and all that. When out of high school, I guess two questions. When did you
Yeah.
find your way to Edmonton? And then from there, when did you decide, okay, this is where, I guess, what was the beginnings of your personal trainer journey? Because obviously you run your own company right now. I don't imagine you started by running your own company. So what were the origins of that?
No, I'll try to make a long story short as possible, but I tend to rant on about these things, especially when it starts with the origin. But like when I got out of school, I knew myself. I knew if I got into the workforce and started making money, I just wouldn't go back to school. So basically, what happened was I went to school not really knowing what I wanted to go into. Originally, I was going to go into teaching for the education route with the plan of becoming like a gym teacher. And then, like, part of me really didn't want kids for the rest of my life. So then I just took business administration as my first year, kind of applicable to anything. It's a good skill set to have. And maybe I open up a business one day. How little I knew it would actually affect my career later on. But going through that process, I realized that that's not exactly what I wanted to do. Like sitting in an office all day or doing the marketing, accounting, it's just not what I was super passionate about. But in college, I really started going to the gym a lot more, and I started to see and meet a lot of people that were in the kinesiology program, which is the study of movement patterns and basically like advanced gym class to a degree. Me being a big fan of gym class, I was like, this looks really interesting. So it was actually down between doing kinesiology or doing broadcasting school, actually, or journalism, which is completely like out of left field for me now when I think about it. I don't really know why I chose that route. I think it was to go into like sports broadcasting. But yeah, basically kinesiology. I did the 2-year program in Red Deer. After that, just with consulting with a couple of different people, I decided not to go the university route. They said that unless I was really working with specific populations, I probably didn't really need it, which is true and false. I've made a great career for myself, and I'm very happy with where I'm at. But having a university degree would have helped me get like my strength and conditioning certification because you need a degree, a 4-year degree for that. But it hasn't been super important for me to go back to get that. So nothing there. And then I moved back up to Whitehorse to start my career. And realistically, it was kind of floundering up there. I was making enough money for beers at the bar and gas for my car. And I was living with my parents, not paying rent. And probably about 6 months of working basically at a front desk of a gym, I decided this isn't really for me. And the lifestyle of Whitehorse, there's really not much there. It's very secluded, and I'm not a big camping, motorbike, or dirt bike and ATV kind of person. Like I do enjoy it; it's fun, but it's not something I want to do all the time. So I made the decision to move back to Red Deer. I had a lot of friends there. And I actually kind of got spoiled with my first personal training job because I got on with a private company that did all the marketing, did all the selling, did everything for us, which was fantastic. So all I had to do is just train, develop good relationships, and retain those clients. So I was with that company for probably like 9 years of my professional career. So that's what actually brought me to Edmonton inevitably, is that they were looking to expand their operations. So we opened up a new gym in Sherwood Park. I was promoted to the general manager position of that location, and I had been with them up until probably I think it was March or April of 2021. So we were just coming out of a lockdown. We just had our first month back, and then yeah, I got the old pink slip and decided it was time for it was time to figure out what I wanted to do for the rest of my adult life.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? These things that the universe co-creates or collaborates with you. And, I'm sure it'll be something you look back, the further you get removed from that day of, what was certainly was at least a punch in the stomach, right? Nobody likes to get fired unless it's clearly a job they're trying to get fired from, like George Costanza on Seinfeld, but aside from that, it's like, certainly that was a traumatic, to a degree, story for yourself. And the further away you get from that, you're looking back and you're like, wow, everything that you're doing now, like what you've built with your own business and such, you probably look back at it as like, man, this is the universe was like, hey, now is your time, and here you go, and you just take the ball and run with it, correct?
Yeah, like it's not a good feeling when you are deemed expendable. It's really not. Like, realistically in life, there's not a lot of situations that we aren't replaceable in, but we don't think that we're replaceable, right? So it's a mindset shift where you kind of get comfortable in different situations. And at the time, I was very, very bitter about what happened, because again, I had no idea why. It was just basically Kate, we're going to split different ways. I had really good relationships with almost everybody there, so it came as a really big surprise to me. So it was a really big punch in the gut, because a lot of those people were basically family to me. They were some of my best friends. They're people that I went through the entire pandemic with, right?
Wow,
So it's
yeah.
like you have this big shared emotional bond, and then you just stop seeing them. Obviously, like, when you're the general manager of a place, you have more of like a boss type relationship with a lot of the people you work with. Again, I consider myself friends with a lot of people, but realistically, like, I haven't really talked to a lot of people from that. So it was a very tough experience to go through, because not only did I have that, but I lost a lot of my support group at the same time. So it was really tough to go through that. And there was a lot of personal development and personal growth that's happened through that. Nowadays, I can look back at that and see it as a big turning point in my life. I'm very appreciative of my time there. I'm appreciative of all the people I got to have experiences for and with. But realistically, now it's like looking to the future. What can I do next? How can I take that experience and help other people with that experience too?
How quick was it between when you were handed the pink slip and made a firm decision and committed to it, as far as starting RK Athletics? Was there a grieving period of a couple months where, like you said, you were a little bitter, processing time, or was it just like, okay, I gotta do something different, or I choose to something different, and then onwards and upwards? Like, what was that transition like, time wise?
Time wise, like, when I look back at it, it was a pretty quick turnaround. At the time, it felt like it was years. Every day felt like a year, because you don't have any work. You're not really looking forward to anything. There's really no like definitive timeline of, I need to get my poop in a group and kind of get moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
But I made sure I took my time and I didn't jump into anything. Like, I think I gave myself basically the month to just chill, get my own mindset right, kind of get my own personal life down. My grandma unfortunately passed away like the week after as well, which
Man,
sucks. But like, she had a wonderful life, wonderful lady. Miss her very dearly, but I'm sure she's looking down on everybody with big smiles. But yeah, so it was probably about 2 months before I officially started RK Athletics. My first month, like I mentioned, I just took it off. I didn't want to worry about anything, just dealing with the stress, dealing with the emotions of everything. It was really, really tough. The second month was now kind of investigating what was out there, because this is the first time I viewed myself as like a free agent, to use sports analogy, right? Yeah. It's like, I can pick where I want to sign. Like, obviously, starting my own thing was always an option. It was kind of the first and starter option, at least. But I really wanted to see what else was out there. So I interviewed at a bunch of different companies as either a subcontractor or as general manager in different positions. And realistically, when I looked at it, the finances didn't really line up with what I was looking for. And really, I thought about different opportunities and the different experiences I can have. And I thought to myself, you know what? I'm never going to have less experience, in my life. So why not start my own business, see how this goes. If it completely flops, I can apply at other places again. I can apply for different jobs. I can probably get a decent job and start fresh again. I'm still young enough that I can do that. I don't have any kids. Me and my girlfriend don't live together quite yet, so I don't really have those responsibilities. So I just said, screw it, let's do this myself, and the rest was history.
Yeah, right on. Very cool story. I think everybody, especially nowadays, like there's so many of these stories of like people betting on themselves. The whole great resignation. I know it's a big thing. Is people were either like yourself unceremoniously let go of jobs. Some people were laid off and then never asked to come back. Some people were, you know what I mean, getting very disenchanted at their employees, whatever it may have been throughout the pandemic really amplified that, I think, for a lot of
Yeah.
people. So, we're getting a lot of people like yourself coming out of the other side, creating their own businesses, which is so cool to see. How tricky was it to, the first thing that came to mind is like, you already have all these contacts, and what is considered, fair game and still in line with like, you being, not credential, what's the word? In line with, I guess, with your own, I'm trying to blank
Like
on the word.
morals.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, the morals, like as far as approaching other people that you used to work with that were with this company, and certainly, like you say, there might have been a little bit of that bitterness that pipes up and like, well, F those guys, like those were my clients, you know what I mean? Reaching out to them versus just, you know what, hey, it's fresh start. If they come to me, they come to me. I can't necessarily headhunt, quote unquote. What did that process look like? I'm interested with that.
Yeah, there's absolutely no headhunting. So like I was very respectful with that side of things. I didn't reach out to anybody. The only messages I sent out were to make people aware I was no longer with the company. And that was about it. I basically said, I'm no longer with the company. I'm going to figure out what I need to do. Keep in touch. And that was about it. And then once I announced that I was doing the training side of things, I had a couple former clients obviously reach out. And from there it was just kind of what it was. But at the time I was the general manager. I wasn't really training all that often.
Sure.
So again, like I look at it very much like, well, I was let go and I didn't see it coming. I'm sure there was multiple different reasons, right? I'm sure it wasn't without just cause.
Yeah, sure.
But the clients that I had really great relationships with, they followed me over. Again, I think it was one current client, one former client, and then I had another client do online stuff with me while they were moving to a different city. But yeah, so it really didn't factor a lot into my current business. Those relationships, I remained with the other company. It didn't hurt that I was moving to a completely different location. So this gym was in Sherwood Park. I'm now in downtown Edmonton. So there's a big distance between those.
Yeah.
Which really kind of allowed me to have a fresh start. I think it would have almost been a disservice to me if more people came with me to do this. Because then I'm just kind of lingering in the past a lot.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
I'd probably hear more about what's happening at the other company. I'd probably hear more about the different training or whatever it might have been. I just needed to do a fresh cut, kind of keep myself away from that. And I think moving to the downtown area really helped with that.
Yeah, I imagine the downtown core is a big, it was like essentially the perfect place you could have moved in a lot of ways. There's a lot going on, a lot of business professionals that, and we'll get into, I love how specific you are and how you've refined into your like ideal clients, you know what I mean? As far as like, the specifics, it's good because I know for myself, if you have something as far as what we've posted, people are either going to go, this is my guy, or they're going to be like, okay, well, not yet, or no, this is not for me altogether, right? Which is, any good business does that. So, it's just for disclosure to everybody else that's listening, like both Rich and myself are part of BNI, which is an amazing, it's Business Networking International. It's a great group. So anybody that's entrepreneurs that are listening to this, definitely worth checking out. And if there's anybody in the Edmonton region that listens to this, by all means, reach out to myself or Rich if you're interested after you look at the BNI website. So wanted to mention that. But when you got into this your own business, and you had mentioned before, like general manager, yes, the marketing side of things, that business, the admin side of things was essentially taking care of you, or taking care for you rather. How was that of a transition as far as you're responsible for the way that you are getting, like, you're micromanaging yourself in a sense, like you're delegating it to yourself. You're a one-man, crew at this stage anyways, right? So how was that transition as far as now you got to have like that creative hat on too? How are you presenting yourself on social media, and from there? So what was that transition like for you?
The social media side of things wasn't too much of transition. I was already doing a lot of that on my own anyways, especially for like the different pages we used for the alternative or the other business. However, it was things like the funnels, the sales, kind of the sales funnel to getting people, was stuff I wasn't really privy to, or things that I didn't really fully wrap my head around how important. So the things that I'm learning now, again, there's a lot of refining what I learned there, what I've learned in school, finding what works best for me. But having that experience definitely was beneficial on the business aspect of everything, because I already knew it's like, okay, well, number one, track, track everything you do. And I think that's where a lot of younger business professionals forget. It's like, if you're not tracking, you have no idea what's working, and you have no idea what's going to talk to your population. And then from there, it's just been consistent refinement of what am I looking for, how do I want to present myself, what are different strategies to do this, and what's going to be the best option for myself, right? It's no longer like, hey, it's coming from corporate, these are the things we need to do. Cool, okay, plug and play, just do the checklist. Now it's more of a, okay, what do I want to be talking about? And sometimes that's good, sometimes that's not good, because sometimes I get a little scattered. I want to solve everybody's problems, right? And I think that's one of the reasons why I got into personal training, is because I want to help people. But the thing that I've realized is that me trying to help everybody actually helps nobody. So in my marketing, I'm trying much, much more consciously to refine it a lot more to, like you mentioned, speak to a certain population, try to help these issues first. And if that trickles out to other people, fan-freaking-tastic. I want to help them. But as long as we're getting this kind of message out to these people, that's really what I need to focus on. So I'm trying to be better with that. I think I've switched my client avatar, as a lot of people call it, 6 or 7 times over the last year and a half I've been in business.
Sure.
So you can go back and look at my social media page and see it's just there's almost an evolution and tidal waves that come with just who I'm presenting to, the messages I'm sending out, the different types of media I'm putting out, whether it be videos. I'm much more comfortable doing videos nowadays than doing long form, big long posts. I save that now for blogs or ebooks or things along those lines. But yeah, there's definitely been an evolution, and you know what? It's fun. It's exciting. It's tough because there's a lot of different hats you have to wear, and you have to really time manage this stuff. Especially if I want to scale my business up even more. There's even more hats to put on, but ideally you get extra help along the way with whether it's hiring marketing firms, advertising firms, accountants, you name it. But yeah, having the business background and being part of the general managing part of the business, as well as part owner as well, you got to see a lot of the things that you need essentially for business. So it's just, again, kind of taking what I knew previously and applying it to my own stuff.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. Let's get a little example. What are you looking for these days? If somebody's and then we're gonna get into the holiday talk, because this is part of the episode is as we switch gears. But before we do that, what would be somebody that you're looking, an example of what you're looking for right now? Because I know when we do our weekly BNI presentations, you have it very much dialed in. So not to put you on the spot, but I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, very much so. Like right now, specifically, I'm looking for like rec athletes that feel like they're losing a step, whether it's because their body's kind of breaking down due to injuries, aches, or pains, or just wear and tear on their body. They don't feel as good as they used to. They don't feel as energetic. They're not as motivated, or they're noticing that the waistline's getting a little bigger, pants are getting a little tighter. They're not feeling as confident as they used to with taking their shirt off during beach season, or going to or wearing their favorite bikini or dress or suit, whatever it might be. Those are really the people that I'm looking for. People that have established their careers, but really haven't focused too much on their health outside of their sporting activities. By implementing a lot more of the resistance training, a lot more lifestyle coaching, including a bit of on the nutritional side of things, I feel confident that we can get a lot of these people feeling amazing again, make sure that we reduce the aches and pains they feel, and make sure that they're, one of my catchphrases is live life to the fullest. And that's really what I want to help people do, is I want people to be able to live life um, unregulated, essentially, right? Not having to worry about your bad knee, not having to worry about your bad shoulder, not worrying about like, am I going to be able to do this hike versus like, hell yeah, I can go do this hike.
Yeah, big difference there for sure. I love that. Sounds good, man. So let's get into this holiday season coming up. I know this has got to be a massive, time for you. I know January. It's like the jokes of January, and like I've been going to the gym for the last 7 or 8 years, anyways. And I remember Januaries were like this massive increase of people, the New Year's resolution, and then by February 1st, it was like half that, and then by March, it was seemingly back to normal. That was my experience with my rec center, the Clairview one up here. So, I say
Love
that to
that
say,
place.
yeah, beautiful. It's a great spot. Great spot. I love the rec centers here at Edmonton. But yeah, having said that, like, let's get into, before we get into the January aspect of it, how can you, or I guess, what do you recommend for helping folks navigate, holiday season, both physically and mentally, right? Because I imagine you're having some clients that come and they've indulged, and whether it's like, anywhere from Thanksgiving to Christmas, there's going to be changed eating habits, changed training habits. We know the weather has changed. Obviously, we mentioned that earlier. What kind of advice do you give to folks that are like, that are just sort of, and let's face it, it's a stressful time for a lot of people, right? The holiday season. So yeah, just many, many different questions. Take it as far, like whichever direction you want to go, just holiday season, taking care of yourself, basically.
Yeah, it's tough to give generalized answers because everybody comes from different backgrounds. But like, I'll speak in just frame of my experience with clients, not necessarily people that might not be exercising right now. But a lot of clients, my message is simple. It's just survive, enjoy yourself, don't stress about this time of year. In fact, the more reading I've been doing, the more research I've been doing, I find that having kind of what's called a diet break is probably going to be one of the best things that people can do around the holiday time. This doesn't mean like go out and eat whatever the hell you want as much as you want, but it's just like be mindful, don't track your calories, just eat food, enjoy the food. Don't stress out about it. Don't worry about how many calories are in X or in Y or Z. Don't try to burn off those calories. It's just like the 2 weeks around like Christmas, New Year's, you just stop worrying about the different types of foods. And this can actually help people see better results moving into the new year. But a lot of times when people are coming into December, coming into mid-November, people get really nervous about it because they've seen every time they start to see like weight loss and they come to December, it always comes back, or it always kind of does this little loop. And really, like, the big thing is try to just keep things as consistent as possible. So if, for example, you have a Christmas party, that doesn't mean the rest of your day completely changes. It just means that one part of that day, right? So if you need to get your exercise in a little bit earlier in the day, maybe you go for a walk. Maybe instead of going to the gym, you go for that walk at lunchtime instead of just sitting in the office, right? Weather is a little bit permitting here in Edmonton, obviously, but again, I think we all own pretty good jackets. But the holiday seasons is really, it can be really stressful for the body, and it's not just due to our mindsets, or sorry, a lot of it has to do with just our mindset, as you probably know as well, right? when our finances are a little bit off, or our eating is a little bit off, our physical activity is a little bit off, we're drinking a little bit more, which affects our sleep and our hydration and how we feel, right? All of these things trickle down, but what hurts people the most, I feel like, is the stress they put on themselves about these different things. So if people have a piece of cake and then they sit there and they beat themselves up about eating that piece of cake, and they're just like, oh, I can't believe I did it, I blew it, I'm going to have to go and like beat the crap out of myself at the gym tomorrow. It's like, no, it's a piece of cake. It's like 400 calories. You're not going to be able to walk. You're not going to be able to run that off. But what you can do is just forget about it, put it in the past, and then tomorrow get right back on the eating side of things. Eat the same foods you normally would, right? Even having plans set, like, this is more for like more advanced clients, I guess, but like even timing of doing more of like a bulk phase is probably a good idea around this time of year as well.
Sure.
And really focusing on lifting heavier weights, right? So if we're having more calories, we can expend more energy, and we might as well get something from that. So if we can build extra muscle during this time and utilize those calories properly, that's awesome. But again, December, this time of year, is almost more of a time for survival than it is for thriving. And I try to tell people that a lot, is lower your expectations, because if somebody has been losing routinely 2 to 5 pounds every month leading into December and they hit zero, that's fine. Even if they gain like a pound or two, guess what? We have those other months that aren't going to let us fall back. We have more lean muscle mass now than we did previously, right? So when January comes, when that motivation's back there and people are getting all excited again, they're already ahead of the curve than where they were before, right?
Yeah.
So most people coming into December, if they're not physically active, if they're not doing anything, they'll probably gain like 2 or 3 pounds, but that's all they gain throughout the year. That's fine. But over like a 5-year cycle, that's like 10 extra pounds.
Yeah.
And people don't see that small increase. So if we can just try to level it out and keep it at zero, that's a huge improvement compared to what they were doing in the past.
Yeah, I love that, man. Really great advice.
Was that rambly enough for you?
It was no,
it
dude.
felt
It was
all over the place. So
but it was great. Everything that you said, there was some really great. We could summarize, like, just like you say, though, like, have different expectations for December. December is December. I'll have that allowance. So then, and by allowing yourself that, you're allowing some slack, so to speak, and planning for it, then you don't have that, what I call the second arrow, where but it's been deemed, I use it. I think it's anyways, it's a term that basically, it's like you get in a car accident and then you get angry at yourself for getting in a car accident. The damage is done. You've already been in an accident. So the second arrow is like, so like you said, with the cake, you have the cake and you're like, oh man, I shouldn't have that cake. And you start, so that avoiding that. So by giving yourself this allowance and this like a changed managing your expectation for December. And then, like you said too, it's like, okay, if you're used to a certain, losing 2 to 5 pounds a month, and even just at zero, just coming at zero is still such a huge win. So redefining expectations and what you would call like a victory or success, and planning that into your December. Is that essentially what?
Yeah, kind of not planning to fail necessarily. I'm not telling
Right.
people like, go out there, do whatever the hell you want, feel great about yourself, but be okay with 5 pounds. It's like, yeah, there's going to be a little bit of weight gain, but keep your mindset positive, because you're still moving in the right direction.
Exactly.
Especially if you're still doing those other aspects of what hopefully we've implemented throughout the year. A lot of it has to do with lifestyle. And you mentioned the arrow.
Second arrow. Yeah.
Second arrow. Yeah. So that's kind of what I like to call the negative feedback loop, right? Or has been called negative feedback loop, of where, people beat themselves up over or they eat poorly, so they don't have as much energy, so they don't exercise. So they, have less energy again, so they don't eat well. And it just keeps going in that cycle. And then you stop sleeping as well. You gain weight, you feel bad about yourself, and it just keeps going on and on and on. So instead of allowing yourself to get stuck in that cycle, it's like, you didn't eat very well. Well, you're still doing activity. You're still getting your sleep. You're still getting your water. You're still dealing with stress, right?
Yes.
So you're keeping yourself out of that loop and keeping more things positive. So if one spoke is out of direction, that's okay. You're still able to do these other things, right? And again, like I mentioned before, it's not about you ate poorly, so now you have to work it off in the gym. It's you ate poorly, just be active. Just do
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Like go
Yeah.
for a walk. Going for a walk is probably one of the best things you can do for yourself in health, in wellness, in whether it's physically or mentally.
Yeah. Dude, that's amazing. No, it's great stuff. Great stuff. And like, so, we'll switch gears out of December
Yeah.
now. We've dealt with December. Let's go to get into January. There's the whole thing about, like setting goals, New Year's resolutions, there, over the years, people have started to kind of turn on New Year's resolutions, myself included. I mean, I try to show up as best I can, from day to day, week to week, month to month throughout the year. January is a good reset point for like a point of reflection for myself. That's me. I know there's there's some stigma with the resolutions, and specifically like, people like have best intentions and 2 weeks into the year it slips, you know what I mean? So let's talk a little bit about like, what do you see as far as with the personal training side of things, as far as setting goals, realistic goals, I would assume, but setting goals in general and having them so they can actually stick.
Like when it comes to current clients, kind of leading into December again, just a quick little step back. One way to kind of keep people on track is also setting goals from like basically now to just to Christmas, right?
Okay, sure.
And if you set a goal with them where it's like, hey, I want to be able to lift X amount, I want to be able to do X, Y, or Z, or some type of strength-based goal by that time, usually keeps people a lot more invested. So when it comes January, we just keep going with what their ultimate goal is. That's a big thing with a lot of current clients, is just keeping them focused and making sure they don't get distracted by shiny ball, shiny ball, shiny ball. Like, it's like, no, your goal for your health is to drop, let's say 30 pounds body fat, right? We're 15 in, but when January comes around, it's like, oh, but I think I want to do a Spartan race. It's like, cool, we can definitely train you for a Spartan race, but let's remember, like, if we get this 15 pounds down, fantastic. Actually, the Spartan race is a better goal overall than weight anytime, but you kind of get what I mean, right? Kind of get that.
Yeah.
What's the new shiny toy? Not like, well, I've been working towards this for the last 5 months. So with current clients, it's just keeping focus and making sure that we're continuously building on what we've done before. But with a lot of new people, like I see it all the time. You mentioned this before. New Year's resolutions get a bit of a stigma. So does like, oh, I'll start on Monday, right? People kind of poo on that quite a bit. It's like, start today. If you don't start today, then you're trash. It's like, what kind of messaging is this to send people? Like, I know for me personally, I view Sunday as like such a great reset point. Like, you can maintain motivation. You can start things off. It gives you a clear, defined starting point versus just like, well, I'm just going to go to the gym one day. It doesn't work like that. You just decide to go to the gym because you like the gym. The majority of people don't like the gym, right? And as a personal trainer, you see that a lot. And that's why January ends up becoming so crazy, is because you get all these people who are intimidated about being in the gym, have no idea what to do in the gym, but they want to work on their health and wellness. So they commit to these large packages of like, I'm going to do a year at Fit for Less. Fit for Less is like, I don't know, $13 a month. So it's like you go during January, it's crazy in there because it's cold. Everybody's inside. Everybody's working out there. You got your regulars, you got your new people, and they get freaked out. So they don't come back, but they pay for the membership every month, $13. And they're like, oh yeah, I'll get started. I'll get started. So one of the best things a lot of New Year's resolutions people can do, and again, me being a personal trainer probably doesn't help this, but getting a personal trainer is one of the best things you can do when it comes to like New Year's resolutions, especially because a lot of times we think, I want to achieve this, but we don't have the rest of it. We don't have how we're going to achieve that. We just think, go to the gym, eat better. It's like, well, what do these things really mean?
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
What is eating better? What are you going to do once you get to the gym? What are you going to do once you reach your goal? What time frame do you want to reach your goal in? Right. It's the whole concept of SMART goals. And a lot of people don't apply that to New Year's resolutions. It's like, this year I'm going to quit drinking. Probably something you've worked with a lot, right?
Definitely.
But it's like, you need a strategy for these things. You need to have support for these types of things. And a lot of people, unfortunately, don't have that. Now, not to say that you need to have a personal trainer to be successful in the gym, but go with your friend. Go with somebody that's going to teach you and show you the ropes and make it a more comfortable situation for you. Because So again, kind of going back to when I first moved to Edmonton, working out in Red Deer, I was fortunate enough to have a private facility. So I didn't have to go out in the general population. I knew everybody in the gym and could just kind of do whatever I wanted. When I moved up here and I had to go to a rec center for the first time, I've been working out for like 5 years at that point. I was intimidated as hell to be in this rec center because it felt like everybody was watching you. It felt like you were always in the way. You're always using a piece of equipment somebody else needed.
Yeah.
And it just did not feel super inviting. So if you can find that person that you can kind of latch onto almost and just make it that positive experience, it's phenomenal. Like, it's one of the biggest reasons people don't go to the gym is because of just the intimidation factor. When in reality, the gym's probably one of the most welcoming and accepting places. It's just, you know, the guy lifting 500 pounds, grunting, you know, doesn't look the most approachable. But I bet you money if you go over and ask them, it's like, how'd you get to that point? They're going to go on like an hour rant about this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
No one's sitting there being like, stop staring at me. A lot of people go to the gym to get looked at.
Totally.
But again, I kind of digress. But yeah, that's one of the biggest things with New Year's resolutions is setting up your definitive goal with like the SMART acronym that's specific, measurable, realistic, attainable, and time-based. So making sure that you have all those aspects down, and then finding a way to make the process enjoyable for you, because there's no one-size-fits-all process to this, whether it comes to working out, whether it comes to nutrition, whether it comes to anything. Everything can be individualized for each person. And that's where I try to come in and try to make this process as easy as possible for people.
Yeah, that's great. You know, I know it's funny. You answered the question. You know, my final question was like, how do you know, and why would you need a personal trainer? And you literally answer that within that in-depth, setting proper SMART goals and such. So very well done that way. Rich, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I want to give you an opportunity. And we are going to, listeners who we had the cliffhanger, the foreshadowing of the pro wrestling thing. Don't worry, we will have Rich back on to do a pro wrestling episode. As long as you're down for that, Rich, I'm assuming you would be.
Absolutely, anytime.
Rad. Where can we find you if somebody's listening to this and going, yeah, I want to reach out to Rich? What's the easiest way to find you online?
The easiest one that I try to send people to are either my Facebook page or my Instagram, RK Athletics. I think both of them are under @RKathletics1. There is a company in Europe somewhere that shares the same business name as me. However, you'll notice very quickly that the language is much different. So RK Athletics 1 is probably one of the best places you can find at least the content that I'm putting out, and see if it's a good fit for yourself, or if you're interested in any of the tips that I'm sending out there. Again, I try to give away as much for free as possible. So even if you have questions and you're not interested in personal training, shoot me a message. I'm not going to try to sell you something that you don't need. Or you can visit my website, www.rkathletics.ca, not .com. .com is also owned by some other European company, but rkathletics.ca. I use it more for my blog more than anything else, but there's some pretty good stuff on there, including some testimonials.
That's great. Thanks so much, Rich. We'll have all those links in the show notes, of course, and looking forward to having you on as a recurring guest. You know, we got a bit of a collaboration going on with our BNI network, and really appreciate your time today. Happy holidays, everybody. Hopefully you got some really helpful tips. Take out the hopefully. You got some very helpful tips from Rich. Rich, thanks again for coming on, my friend.
Thank you so much, Matt, for having me. Can't wait to come back.